Hi boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and Gorilla fans all over the world. My name's Robbo and this is Gorilla TV. And tonight on Gorilla Talk, we have the absolute pleasure of sitting down and having a chat with Shane Brucey Bensted. Brucey, welcome to Gorilla Talk, mate.
Thanks, Robbo. Lovely to be here.
Actually, I don't think I've ever asked you, mate, where did the Brucey come from?
Yeah, well, it was my first ever game of Masters footy.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any of the blokes that were playing. I fronted up, we were at Kedron Footy Club, and we were on the field just about to play, and I forget who was coaching. It might have been Truck, I reckon. But anyway, he had a clipboard, and he's ticking off names, and he's, you are, he didn't know half the blokes. And he goes around the group, and one was Shane Matthews, I'm Shane, and then there was another Shane in the group. Yeah. And he got to me, and I said Shane. He goes, "I'll piss off." Oh wait, we allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, mate. Yes, it's after hours.
Yeah, good. Yeah, okay. So I said, "Well, just call me Bruce," which is a line from a Monty Python.
Yep. Okay.
I'm a Monty Python nut from way back, so I said, "Just call me Bruce," and he said, "Right, that'll stick." And I've basically been called Bruce ever since.
So only probably what Shane is the wife when you're in trouble, or when does Shane come out? Because I've never heard anyone call you Shane down here.
Yeah, not many people at the footy club call me Shane anymore.
Maybe some close family.
Yeah.
Mate, can you tell us a little bit about your family, man, and where you grew up?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small country town, 2,000 people when I was growing up in Kilmore, which is about, I think it's 60 k's north of Melbourne, something like that, up the Kilmore Highway. Yeah. You know Kilmore?
Yeah, I went on a camp out that way once when I was in like grade 6 or something.
Right, I not much to see in Kilmore, mate.
No, there wasn't, Brucey.
I was going to say, that's not the world's greatest camp.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. So small country town. Dad worked on the northern outskirts of Melbourne, so it was a sort of 45-minute drive, I think, down to work every morning. And we started off in outer suburbs of Melbourne, and I think there was a murder in the street. Wow. In Broadmeadows, and they said,
that sounds about right.
So they said, right, might be time to move the kids out to the country where it's a bit safer.
Yeah.
So I think I was about 4 or 5 when we moved to Kilmore.
Yeah. Yes, Sporty's a rough area. That's a Footscray way, isn't it?
Oh, and that's right on the northern edge of Glenroy, I think we're actually in, next door to Broadmeadows.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Anyway, I don't remember that. I was a tiny baby, but Kilmore was awesome. It was a great place to grow up. It was, small country town. Assumption College, that most people know, is a bit of a footy factory down there.
Yep.
So,
did you go through that college, Brucey?
I started there. I was up here before I finished, but I did a couple of years at Assumption. So, rough shoulders with a few future greats.
You can name drop on a sec, mate. What was a young Brucey like? Because I reckon you would have been a little bit of a rascal, mate, myself.
Oh, a harmless rascal.
Harmless rascal, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had older sister and then 2 brothers, younger sister. So the 2 brothers and I and a few mates, I guess, got up to, relatively harmless mischief. Yeah. Country boy mischief. Nothing that you'd be too embarrassed to talk about now, but probably nothing you want to tell your mum about at the time.
Yeah, harmless
mischief. Yeah.
I suppose in those days, what'd you do? Your mum would sort of see you off in the morning on the weekend, and you'd probably come home when the street lights went on. That's pretty much how it went. Yeah.
A lot of cricket in the front yard. We built our own bikes usually, so you'd jump on the bike you built, and you'd ride around our mate's place and buy a new wheel or a new pair of handlebars or whatever.
Do you hear that, kids? They built their own bikes back then.
Oh, when I say building, like you'd buy a second-hand bike and you'd go and buy a new set of wheels from someone, and you'd change bits around and you'd put it together and jump on your bike and ride out of town somewhere and find a dam to have a swim in. And
so I don't think some kids would know how to ride bikes these days. It's pretty much just all video games and scooters, and I think you forget. But mate, life was fun back then, that's for sure. What sports did you play as a little fella? Was it the typical cricket in the summer, footy in the winter, mate?
Precisely. Yeah, there wasn't much else to do. I did swimming for a while. I remember the good story from the local Kilmore swimming club was that the coach of the local swimming club couldn't swim.
Yep. And he was the coach.
He was the coach of our swimming club.
You must have known someone to get that gig.
Yeah, I think. Well, there was 2,000 people, mate. So basically, if you showed up and put your hand up to do a job, you got it.
Well, good luck if you were drowning.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd save yourself.
So no, footy was the main one. There was a year there, I reckon, when I was sort of 13, where I was playing school footy for Assumption under 13s or whatever, and club footy for the local Kilmore Footy Club, and training Monday, Wednesday for school, and then playing on Saturday and training Tuesday, Thursday for club and playing on Sunday. So it's basically 6 days a week.
But you would probably love that, wouldn't you?
And I'm still no good. That's the thing, right? 6 days a week.
I
You think I'd have got a bit of ability out of it?
I think you did okay, mate. Well, I only saw you from a master's perspective, and you certainly did all right around the track, mate. So you're very hard at it and passionate, and you didn't mind laying a tackle, mate, and getting in there, that's for sure. Who did you look up to as a kid, mate? Who were your heroes been back in the day? Because I know you're a mad blue bagger, Carlton man. I assume you're a Carlton man from early on.
Well, I'm a mad blue man because I grew up in Kilmore, right? They played in navy blue jerseys. So,
yeah. Oh, okay. So Kilmore were navy blue.
Yeah.
So that's how you got. Okay, nice.
So my dad made a comeback in his early 30s, and I would have been 5.
Yeah.
And so that's early 80s, and there's no footy on TV except for Seven's Big League, like a 1 hour highlights package on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And
was that with Drew Morphy?
yeah, it would have been probably.
Yeah.
And so I'd go and watch old man play reserve grade for Kilmore, and then get home and the tally would be on, and I'm saying, "Oh, that's your team."
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and
would he say to you, "Yeah, that's me out there, son"?
He did it, and then his best mate, who didn't have kids, cottoned on that I was kind of leaning towards the Blues, and went and bought me a Carlton scarf, which I've still got to this day.
Oh wait, you still got it?
Oh, it's got pie and rum and coke down it, but it's
perfect. You don't need to wash that.
No, it's never been washed.
Memories, mate.
Yeah, it's never been washed. So so I guess growing up watching your old man play footy was pretty special. And
so your dad was your hero.
Yeah.
None of the.
And then all the usuals, you know. I grew up watching Dennis Lilly and Rod Marsh and Greg Chappell and Brucey and Kenny Hunter and all the greats for Carlton back in the day.
You had some greats back then, but that might have been due to some paper bag stuff under the table.
That's okay.
Is it? Or?
Yeah, I had this chat with some mates today. Whatever gets the job done.
Yeah. No, they had a very good team, Carlton.
So Doyle and Hunter, the two halfback flankers, were one of my favourites.
Yeah, the flying doormat.
Yeah.
And Hunter, he had the long sort of black mullet at the back. Well, I suppose a lot of them did back then.
He was sort of rangy. He was skinny and a really good left footer running halfback. So he was a jet. Yeah.
And that one was it Harms that?
Yeah.
Was it in or was it out?
No, it was in.
It was in. Yeah.
Read the record, mate.
I don't think the Collingwood supporters agree with you.
Put the numbers up in the frame, Robbo. It's done.
Yeah. Well, do you know actually how I started supporting Richmond? This relates to Carlton. It was the 1982 grand final that Carlton beat us in. And I was at my grandfather's house, and I must have been 5 or 6 at the time. And I don't remember the name of the young lass that ran out in the field, the streaker. But my grandfather just grabbed my hands and put it over my eyes, and I started supporting Richmond ever since then. So
yeah, right.
I could have been Carlton. Something Danica or something.
Can't remember her name. Brucey helped her off.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He wasn't too happy.
Yeah.
Now, you look pretty smart. I assume you went to school. You did. You said you went to Assumption. Did you enjoy school, mate? And did you have any idea what you wanted to do when you finished? Or
yeah, I didn't mind school. I went right at school. I'm sort of not bad with numbers. So, school back then favoured people that were good at maths and science. So, I had a good time at school. There's a local school here that at the time was just grade 11 and 12, and it was co-ed. So we had a great time. We've got a really good bunch of mates. Actually, just having a chat with half a dozen of them last night.
Yeah, because you obviously you've come up to, I probably jumped a bit here, you've gone from Victoria up to Brisbane now.
Yeah, so that's right. No, so we moved up here when I was 13, so 1983 that was. And
why the move back then, mate?
So Dad worked for Ford Motor Company. That's when I say worked at Broadmeadows, that was the biggest of Ford's car manufacturing plants in the country at the time. Yeah. And they offered him a job up here at the factory out at Eagle Farm that's no longer there. It might be a G. James Glass or something now. So
were you keen to go? Because that would have been a big. You were 13 at the time.
No, mate, I was devastated. You know what I was upset about? That there'd be no footy in Queensland, because I knew Queensland was a rugby league state.
But they had footy, but just not as...
I was shocked at the quality, in a good way. Yeah, I said to Dad, the footy will be terrible. It's going to be... I thought I'd be best on ground. And I could barely get a game. The group I joined up here, and I'm still mates with several of them, were a fantastic group of... It was a really high standard of footy in the 80s. So.
That's great. So you're still mates with some of those...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, wow, mate. It's fantastic. Now, your family has an incredibly rich history at this football club with your brothers and so forth playing. When did you first pull on the boots? Do you remember the year you first started and had a run around out there, mate?
I do, yeah. So we moved up in the middle of '83 and I spent 6 months or half a season over at Windsor-Zillmere.
Yep.
And then, Dad was still trying to work out where we were going to live, and we settled over this side of town. So we moved to WILSTON GRANGE in '84. So my brothers and I started here in '84. Dad coached eventually. I'm not sure if he coached that first year, but he coached probably year 2 or 3. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. What was the club like back then, mate? Can you tell us a little bit about what WILSTON GRANGE was like back then, the facilities and what it was like playing as a kid here?
Yeah, so it was, the facilities were much more basic than what we have now, but it was always a really passionate club. Always had a real family atmosphere to it. As I said, there's families that I got to know then, people like the McIvers and the Molins and the Hacks that I've stayed really close friends with some of those people from that day onwards. So there's kind of been this family connection that's been part of the footy club since the 80s. So I don't think that's changed. I mean, the buildings have got better. The Oval's, in immaculate nick now compared to what it was. The size of the club's enormous, but we had a really competitive senior side then. It was kind of one of the more powerful, footy clubs. When I say that, we didn't win a lot of flags, but we were in the top 3 or 4 regularly. So yeah, we had a good group of seniors that I kind of looked up to as a little kid, like every little kid does.
Yeah, well, that's what I've noticed actually from having other guests on the show, that back then you would have thousands that would come down potentially to the game because they didn't have the Brisbane Bears or a team to support like that. So your local teams like WILSTON GRANGE and so forth were their team.
We didn't have footy on telly, so if you're passionate about footy, you came and watch your local side play. And I remember as a kid going out to Maine to watch Grange play in finals and sit on the hill with Dad and my brothers, and as I said, we had a good senior side that played finals regularly, and that was what we did on the weekend. If you weren't playing junior footy, you went and watched the seniors play. So
yeah, and obviously very, very passionate supporter you were back then, mate, and play.
Yes, and I have very fond memories of Colts, of you're playing at 9 o'clock, and then there was the pig pen used to be over near the...
Yeah, I've heard about the pig pen.
What's now the cafe, and stand there and drink cans. Like you'd be off from 11, and you'd be 19 years old, and stand there and drink cans through to... And then we always did awards in the club after the last senior game. So, so by then you've played footy in the morning and you started drinking cans with your mates at 11.
So if you were a main supporter and you sort of veered over towards the pig pen and
no, we welcomed everyone, Robbo.
You welcomed.
We were inclusive.
We were inclusive.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I can't prove anything, but I hear it was pretty tough at times in the pig pen.
No, it was willing. It was the 80s.
It was the 80s. Yeah.
It was the same as the footy. Yeah.
Mate,
no different. We copped at every other ground, so that's okay.
What sort of player were you like? I know you didn't play a lot of senior footy, but how would you describe yourself as a player? Were you a dashing wingman, mate, or a hard-nosed backman?
No,
small forward.
Slow as a wet week, Robbo.
Yeah.
I reckon if I, talk myself up, the good bits would be I read the game really well and I was super competitive. I just hate losing. So I had a real crack, but I didn't have great attributes. I'm too slow, I'm too short, and I'm not a great kick. So it's not a great resume, is it?
No.
But
you wouldn't have done too well at the combine, you reckon?
I reckon I wouldn't have done too well at the combine. But I sort of got the most out of myself because I hated losing, so I had a crack.
Yeah. So you gave it everything you got out there.
Yeah.
You got the most out of you.
Yeah. And when you saw what I was like at Masters, I just loved competing, right?
Well, that's a funny thing. I remember when I came down, everyone would say that, it's footy for fun, guys. It's footy for fun. But as soon as you guys used to cross that bloody white line, geez, it changed. It changed. So it was still very competitive. And look, yes, we go off and we have a beer and we enjoy the social side of things, but it did get willing at times because you did want to win.
No, it definitely got willing. I mean, I'm 72 kilos, Rob. I couldn't hurt a fly. But yeah, being competitive for me is putting your head over the footy and being prepared to cop a whack and getting up and going again and making some old fat bloke chase you.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved every second of it. I'd do it again if I could.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. So, obviously, you stopped playing senior footy sort of early because you said you went off and had a family, mate.
Yeah, so I've got 4 beautiful kids. I had my first daughter when I was 21 and then my second at 23.
How was that, mate, being 21 and having a kid? Because all of a sudden you go from, it's all about me, drinking with my mates in the pig pen, life's good, I'm going out, doing whatever I want, and now it's not about me at all anymore.
No. So it's a good story about probably the last time I played footy, actually. Had the 2 girls. Katrina was at work. I was looking after the girls on Saturday morning, and then I was going to drop them at Nana's place and come down. And I'd played pretty well in the seconds the week before. I trained with the senior group. We'd merged with Kedron then, so it was a really strong group. Wayne Johnson was coaching.
Yeah, he went all right.
He went all right. And yeah, I trained with the senior group during the week, and I was still playing seconds, but that's all right. So had to be at the club by whatever time, and they decided Jono would come and they lifted the professionalism to another level, and if you're a minute late, you weren't playing.
Yeah.
So I'm at home with these 2 little girls, and one of them's pooed a nappy as I'm trying to run out the door, so I've quickly had to change the nappy, taken up 10 minutes, dropped them at Nana's, get to the game, 55 minutes before the start of the game instead of an hour. Well, you're out. That's it, you're done.
Yeah. And you couldn't send something through on WhatsApp, could you?
There was no WhatsApp. There was no mobile phone, so I'm 5 minutes late, and they made a point of, saying you're dropped, and then I was away for work for a month, and it all just got a bit too hard. So I was 23 or 24, and it just got a bit hard after that. So
I suppose it's
which is real. I mean, that's probably my biggest regret ever is that I didn't play footy all through my 20s. But
I thought you were going to say that you had kids.
No, not at all.
Then you could have gone on and been a superstar.
Anyway, then I had my boy came along at 27, and then I got 4 kids. So we had Lil when I was just before 30. So 4 kids at 30.
So it was pretty ruthless back in those days, wasn't it? Like, you see now what football clubs are like and how supportive they are and welfare and that sort of thing. If the situation was today, they'd certainly manage it and look after it. And I'm sure if you're 5 minutes late because you're looking after your family, no one's going to really care. But back in those days, it was...
Rules are rules.
Rules are rules, and doesn't matter.
It hadn't been that professional, but they were trying to lift the standard a bit, so... Yeah.
So Brucey and his kids, there wasn't the time and space there.
No, that's all right. I mean, I'll tell you, one of my best footy memories was, how much later? 25 or 30 years later, when I was running the AFL Nines comp here.
Yeah.
And I had a side with all my kids in the team. So it was me, all 4 kids, a nephew or 2 at various times, and then a couple of neighbours and some other people from the club.
That's really cool. So you had a bit of that full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a good side in the end. We won more than we lost, and we had a lot of fun. Yeah.
And obviously you went into Masters. You've been playing Masters since 2000 and...
what year would I... came back when I was 41, I reckon, so...
You're going to tell your age, yeah?
Yeah, what's that? Maybe 2012, I reckon.
Okay. So you've been playing Masters now, you finished in 20...
I played 9 years.
21? Yeah. Okay. And, mate, you've obviously been so passionate about the Masters football. How much has that meant to you, not just coming back and playing the game that you loved, but, the social side of it and the camaraderie of the blokes? It's more than just a game, isn't it, with the Masters? It's more than just a team going out there and playing footy. I suppose that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a really special group of blokes. So the tail end of that story is I kind of didn't get to live out the childhood dream to play footy through my 20s for various circumstances.
Had your family,
and I figured I'd never play footy again, right? Just sort of moved on. Down here coaching, when my boy turned 8, he came down and I started coaching him, and we were sitting on the hill, my wife and I, after the under 8s had finished, under 10s it might have been, can't remember what year it was. And the Masters came on afterwards. And, they're slow and they're hopeless. So my wife looks at me and she goes,
You could do that.
You could do that.
Geez, that's sort of a backhanded compliment, isn't it?
And I played the next week. I said, really? Right. So once I had permission, I was out. And I loved every
Did she know what she was getting herself into when she said yes to that?
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a special group. As you said, it's competitive, but I've made friends from other clubs and, got to go away in the state carnival and made mates with blokes from.
Well, actually, let's have a look at some of the memorabilia. You've got your state jumper, is it?
I've got the state jersey.
There we go.
Yes.
Look at that.
A lot of blokes like to say I got selected for the state team. As long as you pay your $300, you're in.
You're in?
So
No, Brucey, you got selected, mate.
yeah, I got selected.
You're in the squad.
So that's that. Oh, this is one of my favourites though. I've got a pair of shorts from the 80s. These are GRANGE shorts from the 80s. And we didn't muck around. We were a bit fancy back in the 80s, Robbo. We had tailored button-up.
You got button-ups.
Button-up, zipper. Not sure why you need a zipper. Not sure why you need a zipper when you're playing
They're
footy,
almost bloody Warwick Kappa-like. They're pretty small.
Yeah, there wasn't much of me.
Gee.
I can still
I
fit
reckon
in
Kappa
there.
would be impressed with that.
I'm like a old Sheila said I can still fit in a wedding dress. I can still
You'd still fit in your footy shorts?
I can still fit in my footy shorts from the 80s, yeah.
That's fantastic, mate.
Yeah,
Now, I know with the Masters, obviously, you've had a lot of issues with your health, and probably more later on. You've obviously, you're better to talk about this than me because I'll be stumbling through this, but you've had your issue with your eye. Can you tell us a bit about that? That was from early on, I believe, an accident when you were like 8 or 9. And
So the popular story is that my brother shot me with a plastic arrow. And then I got in trouble because I belted him. It doesn't seem fair, does it?
That's a popular story.
I'm blind. So I had a detached retina when I was 9 and had some surgery on the eye and had partial vision through to about 18 and then was blind. That's part of the reason I didn't play footy in my 20s, to be honest.
Was that hard playing sport with...
I didn't really know any different, Robbo. I grew up, I went through my teenage years with partial vision. It's all I've ever known. So,
so you just obviously managed and
I adapt.
adapted,
It's my excuse for being a very average cricketer. But I'm sure there's plenty of other reasons, but it's a good one to lean on.
No, is it? Well, mate, it's a big reason.
Yeah.
Gosh, your sight's pretty important for sport.
Yeah. So, so I was blind in that by the time I was 18, and then I eventually had it chopped out when I was 30. So I've got a marble now. You can do party tricks if you want for the viewers. We better not. We better not.
We do that later on.
So that's just always been part of my life. I've actually probably hammed it up. I've got a lot of gags out of it over the years. I have had the eye out a lot at various social settings. And then more recently, you want me to launch straight into...
Oh, look, obviously, I know from meeting up when we played Masters, I know you had issues with your kidney. And it basically, that's pretty much what stopped you from being able to play, because you're on the dialysis and all that sort of stuff. Can you tell us a bit about that and how hard that was to manage?
I was never on dialysis. I missed out on that.
Sorry.
Thankfully. I was able to manage life, so I didn't need dialysis, thankfully. But I'm going to tell a funny story. How much time we got?
Mate, I had Trevor Moore for nearly an hour, so this is
right.
like Joe Rogan, mate. We could go forever.
So I was diagnosed with kidney disease when I was 40, and it's known as the silent killer because it's until you get kind of right to the end with almost no kidney function, you can have no symptoms or very little symptoms. So I was, not only did I have no symptoms, it's the fittest I'd ever been in my life. I was running triathlons and doing 100k bike rides, and I was, just before I came to play footy. And I was at a card night with the now Masters coach, Darren Smart. We were at his house. We were playing cards with a bunch of mates of ours. And a fella that I didn't really know was studying nursing. And he'd said to us, when you drink, apparently your blood pressure goes up. I'm going to do an experiment tonight. I'm going to take everyone's blood pressure. We'll have a few beers, and then I'll take it again at the end of the night, and we'll see what happens.
Wow.
So we're just sitting down to play cards. Everyone's excited. And he puts the cusp on and he pumps it up, and he can't get a reading. And he does it again. I said, mate, I just want to play cards. Go away. So I go home and tell my wife this story. She says, you've got to go to the doctor. I said, well, come on. I've never been fitter. You must go to the doctor. So she forces me to go to the doc. The reason he couldn't get a reading is my blood pressure was so high that he wasn't blowing the cusp up far enough.
Wow.
Yeah, so my blood pressure was sort of 210 on 140.
Bloody probably, in a way, probably really lucky that happened.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so that led on to the diagnosis of the kidney disease. I was at about 50% kidney function at that point. That's what I mean. I felt fit. I played my whole Masters footy career here at 50% or less kidney function.
Yeah. And mate, I don't know anything about anything, but was it due to what, drinking younger, or they don't know? Or?
No, well, it's an autoimmune disease that caused mine. So I had a virus at some point that attached itself to a kidney cell, and the immune system turned on it and started attacking my kidneys. So so it's a slow degenerative. And the kidney guy at the time said, look, you've gone from 100 to 50. We don't know how long that took. If it's taken 10 years to get to there, you'll probably go for another 20. But if it's taken 3 months, you might be in trouble. Yeah. Just watch it and see. So that was 40.
So the monitoring pretty much from then after?
I was age 40, and then I got 10 years. And then by 50, they were cooked. So my wife gave me one of hers, God bless her.
Yeah, look, that incredible story just in itself, and I'll get to that in a sec, but finding out that diagnosis at 40, that must have been pretty tough to take, because I suppose, you, as you said, you're feeling healthy, you're feeling fit, you're doing triathlon, you're doing this. It's probably the last thing you would have been thinking of.
Initially it was a bit of a shock, but I think because it was potentially so far off, probably the first 6 months was really stressful. And then as I was having follow-up appointments and the levels were really stable, it started to feel like it could go on for a long time. So we kind of put it out of our minds and just lived our life. Okay. And it did. And look, to my doc's credit, he kind of laid out exactly how it would play out. He said, you'll be steady for a long time, and then there'll be a tiny change, and then it'll fall off a cliff. And that's what happened. So I went from 40 to 49 with almost no change. And then I saw him in December of 2018, and he said, there's a few changes here. He said, I reckon you'll get 1 to 3 years, probably more closer to 1. And then I saw him again in March, and he said, you're not going to make this year. So it just.
Yeah. And were you starting to notice that?
Just then, there's that last 6 or 8 months.
Yeah.
I was at about 20% kidney function by that stage. And
so you could tell even when you're out training and running around or doing things, so that's starting. Because I remember you saying from memory that you're coming off of the bench a lot more, and you just, you last 2 minutes and then you're down.
Yeah. So
you probably go half or quarter.
I played through till July, I think, had the transplant in September. My wife was very unhappy about this. If you're watching, Katrina, I apologise now, but I knew I was never playing again. And so I was getting every game in that I could.
Yeah.
And I definitely deteriorated. Yeah, I played that first game. We beat Astley again, round 1.
Yeah, well, you've got to do that, don't you?
And I remember walking off going, I just didn't feel it tonight. I was a bit slow, and I thought I was just having a bad day, which you do, but then I just progressively got worse. Just energy levels. And yeah. That's all right.
Oh, well, mate, you've always
squeeze an extra 4 or 5 games in to wind up the career.
Yeah, well, you've always had.
Can you call it a career in Masters?
I don't know. It was probably. I wouldn't have liked to say that was my career if it was just based on the Masters.
That's all I've got, Robbo.
Yeah. But mate, you've always had a great attitude with those sort of things, and as you mentioned, your lovely wife Katrina gave you one of hers.
She did.
That's a big thing. I love my wife Michelle, and I probably do the same thing too. But that's an incredible thing to do.
No, she's amazing. It was a pretty special time, to be honest. It was really the whole process was. It was unbelievable. It was really tough on the kids, which I kind of at the time was hard for me to recognise because I was really sick.
Yeah.
But when you look back and think both parents having surgery on the same day, it's pretty intense.
Yeah. No, absolutely, it would be for your kids.
And then a pretty tough recovery, more for Katrina, to be honest. The poor donor cops it more than the recipient. It's harder to. It's harder to chop the kidney out of the donor than it is.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not that invasive to put a new one in, but it's pretty. It's horrendous to have the thing chopped out. All the surrounding tissues are attached to it.
So basically, Katrina Brucey would do anything for you now.
I would.
He'd give you his head if he needed to. Now, mate, when you did retire, the great Johnny Webber did this fantastic illustration for you, drawing, or painting. Is it painting, drawing? Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I see the football here is.
Yeah, so he's got the football. There's actually a stitched up kidney with a bit of blood dripping off it.
Yeah.
He's got Katrina's a Pilates instructor, so he's got her sitting there on a Bosu ball.
Yeah.
One of the boys is saying, that's me saying, put it in the book, Sammy. So if you remember, Sammy used to do the scoring for us.
Yes. Is that T-Bone with his Superman
I'd
awards?
say that's T-Bone in the background with his Superman award. And then there's the footy there. I'm holding the kidney instead of the footy.
Yeah.
I've got the dodgy eye, so he's drawn the dodgy eye. And what's he got in my back pocket? That's my glasses.
That's your glasses,
the glasses are off.
That's
yeah,
fantastic,
so it's very impressive. And the boys are drinking stubbies on the sideline.
Yeah, is that Sponge?
That'd be Sponge, yeah.
Well, it'd have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't paid for those stubbies, that's for sure.
No, that's right.
Sponge.
No, he's still got the same $5. So yeah, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
It was really special.
I think he's merged a bit of Jack Dyer in there with you, mate.
He's been a bit generous with the Warwick
with
Farms too.
No, you had some. You were pretty fit, mate. I remember. That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You must have been chuffed when you got that.
Indeed.
Now, like most, as you mentioned before, just earlier, mate, when you sort of finished your playing career, or I suppose didn't get into it too much early days, we had your family. You started coaching, mate. I know you love your coaching. You're very, very passionate about the game. How did you go coaching your boy, and what did you enjoy about being on the other side of the fence, so to speak?
Yeah, I loved coaching. You kind of fell into it a bit. I think, and I did the same with administration, to be honest. You kind of fall into it because you see that the work needs to be done and there's no one else to do it, so you put your hand up. And
So you were committee and administration at the same time?
So I started coaching probably, can't remember what year I coached Matt first, maybe under 10s. And then I would have gone on a committee when he was 11 or 12, a year or two later, when, again, I just saw things needed to be done and kind of thought, you either complain about it or you stick your hand up and go and have a crack yourself, because everyone's volunteers here, right? There's no paid staff at WILSTON Grange Footy Club. Great story. My dad got me one day, actually. I'd been on the committee for a while, and there was one of the sponsors boards on the far wing was coming off, and there was a screw sticking out.
Yeah.
And I walked off one day and said, and Dad was on the committee, said, hey, there's a screw loose over there. You're going to need to get someone to fix it. He just looked at me and said, who's going to fix it? He said, if you see it, you fix it. He said, we don't have a maintenance, there's not someone I can just ring. He said, that's the point of being a volunteer, is if you see something needs to be done, do it. And I went, no, yeah, fair enough. So he gave me a little verbal clip over the ear and said, that's if something needs to be done, whoever sees it has to do it. So
that's mate, that leads me to one of my next questions.
Anyway, I love coaching. Sorry, I didn't answer your question. I absolutely love it. I'm not sure in those early years I was a fantastic junior coach. I was probably too passionate. I look back now and think kind of missed the point a bit. Like, you want to win so badly that
it is hard. You've got to find that balance.
You've got to find the balance. I mean, the kids want to win too, most of them, but it's not what it's about when they're 12 and 13 and 14. It's about having fun. So I made some mistakes, but that's okay.
I actually find, because I'm doing the under-9s at the moment with the little ones, and you can go on the ground and coach them. But I'm doing it with another bloke, which is very handy. So there's two of us doing it. One can handle the behavioural side of things, and then the other can do some coaching, and we mix it up a bit. But I noticed that when he's on the ground and I'm off the ground coaching the little fellas, I find it a lot easier to sort of work with them and coach them. But when you're there and you see what they're doing live in front of you, and they're not running at all, or they're looking away with the fairies, I find that very hard when you're on the ground doing it with them.
Yeah. No, I mean, my favourite little moments, as I said, I wasn't fast enough, wasn't the most skillful, but I think I had a pretty good footy brain. I can kind of see how things are going to unfold at times. Just grabbing a kid and saying, don't stand there, stand here, and a minute later they get a kick. You go,
I've done that.
That's good. Yeah, you just help a kid learn to be in the right spot at the right time, and it's
well, you've got a good football brain, and as you said, that was one of your biggest assets when you were playing. Is you're quite astute with game awareness and that sort of thing. So I suppose that helps, obviously, going into coaching.
Yeah,
absolutely, mate. Now, it would be remiss of me not to mention all the other incredible work that you've done and still do around the footy club. As you said, mate, I've always seen you down here. You're either fixing a bloody fence, or you're mowing a lawn, or you're the main man behind the mic for all of the MC for all of our big functions and our events. And mate, you're here on Saturday with our big ladies' day. We had 250, and that was massive. And as I said, I could hear your dulcet tones as I was walking through the gates, so to speak, at Hickey Park. You love that. You love doing that.
Yeah, I don't mind being in front of a crowd. Well, I mean, I'm so passionate about the footy club.
Me neither, Bruce.
Yeah, you get it. I mean, I love this joint, right? So it's been part of my life for so long that it's like my second home. So yeah, if I get a chance to kind of stand up and talk about what a great spot it is and how important this community is for everyone who's part of it, then I'd sort of jump at the chance, to be honest. And look, the reality is, because of my health, I'm doing a lot less than I did 3 or 4 years ago. I just don't have the energy anymore to do all the stuff I used to do. So the MC work is something that I can do without kind of too much stress. A lot of people don't like public speaking, but
yeah, but that's you're a duck to water with that sort of stuff, mate. It's so easy
now that I can kind of do it without necessarily investing too much time in it. And yeah, I enjoy it, and the club seem to want to keep putting up with me. I must say, interviewing Gary Ablett Jr. last year was genuinely a highlight of my life.
Yeah.
He's such a nice bloke. Gary, if you're watching, I know you watch Gorilla TV.
He's a big watcher of Gorilla TV.
It was such a pleasure to talk to him. I didn't realise he was such an uplifting character.
Yeah,
so that was fun.
He seems like a real genuine bloke.
He was. That's what I'm saying.
He was humble.
He was humble, and he was one of the nicest people I've ever had the privilege of talking to. Obviously, he's a superstar.
Yeah,
but that was fun. So yeah,
it's a little bit of different persona from, say, a Warwick Kappa type of thing.
Yeah,
just a touch.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, well, that's great that and you've obviously, I think it was the year before, we had Swanee and the chicken. Ricky Nicken.
Yeah.
Nixon, because he looks after.
Yeah, we've had. I've interviewed Acker and Simon Black and
his boys down here now, Blakey.
Swanee, is he?
Yeah, his boys down here.
Go. Yeah. Very good. Ablett was probably the highlight. Who else? We had. Now I'm going to draw a mental blank. The baseballer. The Milwaukee Brewers catcher. Someone help me.
Baseball is not my game, mate. I'm sorry.
He's Australia's certainly up until recently, Australia's biggest. He played for the Milwaukee Brewers in the 80s. He came from WILSTON GRANGE Baseball Club.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank, but interviewed him. That was probably 10 or 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
He was probably the highest paid sports star I've ever interviewed.
Yep.
So
there you go.
Yeah.
You'll be kicking yourself when you get off here. You'll walk out here.
Yeah.
It was Timmy Johnson.
Anyone who knows their baseball knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just Google the Milwaukee catcher from
the Milwaukee catcher. Mate, just one thing I did want to touch on is what do you think has been some of our most important changes that you've seen at the football club from when you sort of first came down as a young fella to now? What do you think are the most important changes you've seen at this football club moving forward?
The girls coming and I was on the committee when Denise and Ron Kemp came to us and said we're at Kedron and we were looking for a new home, and they came and presented to us and we unanimously voted for it. And it's taken a while to get some traction, but my God, the energy they bring to the footy club is just unbelievable. So,
mate, it's amazing that you say that, and I'll let you still finish, but I'll forget about it. But we had quite a nice moment here on Wednesday last week. We had the Big Freeze awareness, the M&D awareness, and we had Denise Kemp.
Yeah,
she was down with Ron on the Oval, and a lot of the Masters girls obviously know her from over at Kedron when she was involved with Ron and bringing them over here too. So it was a really nice moment. And the girls, giving her big hugs, and geez, she's still got a big, beautiful, bloody smile, mate. It was lovely to see that. But yeah, they've played a major part in this football club and in the women's space for sure.
Yeah, no, they've been incredible. And that whole initial group, that came across, and Bree wound up doing a really tough few years as president of the footy club, just to try and cement, the women as part of the program. And the early years were pretty tough, I think. It wasn't all one-way traffic. It was hard work, and we had to kind of align two cultures. So, but where we've got to now, thanks to people like you and a whole bunch of others, and it's amazing. It just brings a whole new energy to the place, doesn't it? So,
well, they've always been 50%. of all the clubs, the women in the space going back into the dawn of time, and now they've got the opportunity to got a women's masters team, and I think it was a few weeks ago the other day we had our under eights going all the way through, our first ever under eights girls team, all the way through to the women's masters playing on the same day. And to think of 20 years ago that happening, you'd just be shaking your head thinking, that's unbelievable. And you see the Oz kickers, say on a Saturday morning, and the girls are taking up 50% of the space, which is great. Just amazing to see. And you don't have necessarily Billy now saying, "Dad, take me to football." It's Sally and Tina going, "Dad, take us to football," which is great.
No, I mean, I talked about those families from the 80s. One of them was the McIvers, and I'm really good mates with Tony and Sue Chopper, and he had 4 daughters, and so he hasn't, other than dragging him down to play a bit of Masters, Chopper hasn't been here much, but now his daughters are playing footy, so they're back. The McIvers are back. It's awesome. I love it.
No,
I mean, obviously the facilities, the work that Gilla and Butts have done, and others, but they've been the drivers. It's been quite phenomenal if you look at the photos from just 10 and 15 years ago. Katrina, my wife, still talks about coming down here when we were 17, and there was no deck. There was some old concrete stools at the front of the old club with the timber windows, and it was a different place then.
And I remember, mate, that I think it was 2 or 3 years ago you had your big 50th celebration here as well.
So I've had my 21st here. I had my son's 21st here. I had my 50th here. Very generous 2 or 3 years ago. It was 6 years ago now. I'm getting on, mate.
I'll be careful. I won't say.
I had my dad's 80th was here. So we've had a few celebrations here, as I said.
I think there's a picture of you in the bar at the back.
So on the club website, I think the photo of the facilities is my son's 21st, because we did a good job of dressing it up that night. So if you look up events, there's a nice photo that shows what it looks like with enough fairy lights and flowers. You can make it look anything.
No, it's fantastic, mate. Now, finally, mate, outside of footy and work, what does the great Brucey do to just relax?
Well, normally I'd say watch Carlton play footy, but
geez, you nearly blew it last night too.
I was so angry. It's like, I have to find a new hobby. I'm working hard at the moment. So that's taking up a lot of my time. Otherwise, I like hanging out down here and watching the young kids coming through. That's the other thing is it brings you so much joy when you see a kid you've coached go on to play senior footy and get a kick. I look at a guy like Jack Lipscomb who hadn't played much footy when he was first part of our group, and he was always just so competitive. And he's gone on to play VFL standard footy. He's just, he's such a nice kid. Just gives you a real buzz to watch guys like that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
When I saw Gary Vass run onto the bench, I didn't realise he was back, Vassy.
So that's the reward. That's the reward you get out of it.
Yeah.
Young kids that you coached and now seeing them.
So what else do I do that's fun? I like building stuff. So I've built a fair bit of the furniture in our house. I just kind of taught myself how to do woodwork and poking, tinkering around the house, build a fence or a retaining wall or whatever. So
could you turn that into a bit of might be able to sell some chairs or something or out the back, mate?
That'd spoil the fun, I reckon.
That'd spoil
it? I do commission jobs for the kids now.
That's it?
Dad, I need a shoe rack or... I think I'm on the hook for 2 planter boxes. They're coming, girls, I promise.
No, that's fantastic. Tiger, can you just pass us the... We've got some gifts coming your way, Bruce.
Stop it.
Absolutely, mate. But no, I want to thank you for all your fantastic work you've done at the football club, mate. I'll shake your hand in a sec.
Left me hanging.
I wanted to grab these chocolates first, buddy. But no, look, as I said, mate, I've always seen you at the footy club, whether you're fixing a fence, whether you're mowing a lawn, you've made a massive contribution, not just yourself, but your whole family. We certainly appreciate all the work that you do, mate. And also, actually, we got the big 80th celebration coming up.
We do. Strangely,
and you're emceeing that.
Oddly enough, I'm MC for that.
I know. I wanted to get to that.
I've got 3 MC gigs in a month.
That's going to be a massive night at the football club.
It will be.
Or massive day at the football club, I should say, on the Sunday. A lot of great Sid Guildford and I think Barry Clark and a few other names that escape me, but you'll have a lot of fun with that.
McIver, if you leave him off.
Scotty McIver. You'll have a lot of fun with that, I have no doubt, on the day, mate.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it should be good fun. They're all great footy club names, and hopefully we get a massive crowd down, and hopefully we get a really good spread from all the different generations, and we can tell lies about how good we were once. And,
yeah, well, that's the thing back in our day. We can sort of embellish things because you can't really check it, right?
No, there's no video footage.
Whereas now you can't do that. So, yeah, no, thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Brucey.
Pleasure, Robert.
Cheers, mate. Take care.